Hi guys, it's me Ty here, and today I'm going to explain how to remove the body off of a pickup. Because I don't know, it's probably been going on for a long time, but back when I was a kid, most people, if you had a rusted out cab corners on your pickup or anything, you would take it in the body shop and have them do it. Well, that's kind of a thing of the past now because especially in like our area, but I've heard it's all over the United States right now. Um, the body shops, they will not even accept the job to work on your vehicle unless it's at least a $6,000 job because they have so many customers wanting custom paint jobs that are willing to pay $8,000. So they really don't need your business. So this is what our family's done all these years, in which I wasn't actually involved in it, but like my brother, he's done many body swaps. He always ran the 1980s square body Chevys, in which any of you that have kept track of that, all of those people that grew up with those in high school, they're at the point in their lives where they have lots of disposable income, and they're paying like $25,000 to have a nice pickup of that era. Um, that's kind of where the money's at nowadays. So my brother back in high school, he used to buy pickups that had been rolled and stuff like that. Just everything was dented in. And rather than hire a body shop to do it or go through the work of doing the bondoing and everything, he would just go to the junkyard and buy a whole body from them, buy a box, buy a cab, buy fenders, and he would just swap them out. And I don't know, we don't get together much or whatever, but I ended up seeing him today. And I asked him to show me how he actually does a body swap. And so he takes me to an old square body Chevy that he had with a frame. All the axles were pulled off. And he said, well, first of all, in each of the four corners of your box, you have a carriage bolt. So four carriage bolts. And they screw it, or they go into the frame and the nut and everything. He's like, you go ahead and you remove those carriage bolts. And then he said, you get a board, and it's cut to the length of, or the width of the box. And I don't remember, he didn't say if it was a 2x4 that he uses or a 4x4. Because I would think that a 2x4 might be a little bit too flimsy or a snap or whatever. But he runs it up right underneath the bed rails, um, so it catches on there. And he goes ahead and he brings the loader tractor over with a grapple fork, wraps the chain around the grapple fork, and ties one end over at one side of the box, right by the bed rail, and then on the other end of the chain onto the other end of the 2x4, right on the other end of the bed rail, and he just lifts it straight up, carries it away. And then he said, as for the cab, what he does is he removes the hood, and then I'm guessing he probably has to take out the fenders, I believe too. In which the hood, you just have four bolts where your hinges are. You just unbolt the hood from the hinges. And then as for the fenders on each side, he said up in the front on the fenders, right where the headlights are, there's two bolts that you have to take out. And then at the back of the fender, you open up your door, your passenger door or your driver's door, and go from the inside of your pickup and get some lawn extensions on your ratchet, and you take out two bolts there, and then you can just remove the fender off of each side there. And then he goes ahead and he rolls the windows down on the pickup about this far, so that'd be maybe 4 inches, just so he can set his board on there, his 2x4 or 4x4, whichever he uses. And he said this is the same box, or this is the same board that he used in the to remove the box as well. And then the board, it supports itself because it's just sitting on the glass. And then he comes over with the loader tractor and wraps one end of the chain onto the board sticking out of this window, and the other end of the chain onto the board sticking out of that window, and he just lifts the cab right off. And he didn't say what all he disconnects the cab from the from the frame or whatever. So you would have to definitely make sure everything's disconnected. Like your pedal linkage and your transmission and steering column shaft or whatever. Like I said, he didn't tell me any about that, but that's how he removes and does his body swaps. And he's done so many of them over the years. And they look nice when he's done and everything. He doesn't dent anything. Yeah, because I'd always wondered. I always thought, oh, maybe they pull the doors off or whatever. But I was like, wouldn't that like bend the door frame or anything like that. And he's like, nope, you leave the door on, and with you going through the windows, that way you know that if any that you'll never that the door will always open and close the way that it always did, and you never tweak the frame that it sits on. And so like I said, this is the way of the future, and it's hard to believe, back in the '90s when I was a kid and early 2000s, that uh, that in our family was a big thing. I don't know how many of the neighbors were doing it, but that's what our family was big into, body swaps on the pickups rather than hiring the auto body to do that stuff. And now we have YouTube where you actually could do the body work and weld the panels in, but a lot of people have complained that just buying the panels from JC Whitney and all that to weld into there, that's actually pretty expensive. So like some people have even bought old junk pickups and gone ahead and cut them out with a 4.5 inch grinder if they had like a good fender well or good cab corner, and then go ahead and weld that onto their pickup. But the reality is, it's cheaper and easier and just quicker to just do a full body swap. And the thing about it is these older vehicles, they're getting so cheap. Other than the square bodies, if they're in really good condition, because I've had so many people offer me okay, like the '99 to 2006 uh, Chevy trucks. They're what the heck was it? Just the other day, a guy offered me a 2003 Chevy Suburban. Uh, it ran good, but the transmission was out because the 4L60E, they just weren't good transmissions. $250, and then another guy, he offered me a 2000, yeah, 99 and a 2002 Chevy half ton extended cab short boxes. The engines ran both good on them, but the transmissions were out on them. And all this stuff is 4x4s. Nobody really has the 2-wheel drives. $200. So if anybody that's trying to charge you guys a bunch of money and they're like, oh, it just needs a transmission or whatever, it's because they don't want to go through all that work, and the mechanics can charge them a bunch of money. Because in reality, if you can't drive that machine, it's a parts vehicle. They're trying to sell you a parts vehicle, but just they want you to do all the work, right? You would just go buy a different one. So, and like I said, with me dealing a lot with the salvage business over the years, I know what stuff goes for, and like I had a '92 Ford Tempo. I took that in the salvage yard. That was before I got, or into the scrap yard or whatever. And they said drain all the fluids because I wanted to get premium price for it. Guess what? They gave me $25 for that Ford Tempo. And it had a good transmission, and I overheated the engine. And I went through all that work of draining the fluids, and they gave me $25. And that just covered my gas to bring it in. Then after that, everybody's like, well, you gotta start taking them to the salvage yard where they can strip them down or whatever. My buddy hauled his Nissan Altima. I don't know if it was really nice. He bought it brand new, 335,000 miles. Never stuck any money into it. Transmission worked good. Well, the check engine light came on where it would die or whatever. He called up the salvage yard, and they said, if you can drive it onto our lot, we'll pay you $250 for it. And but if your girlfriend has to tow you with the tow rope into our yard, we'll give you $200 for it. And he tried his best, but he didn't quite make it all the way there, and she had to tow him with the tow rope, and they gave him $200 for it. So and I've noticed, like, if you post ads or whatever that you're looking for a certain vehicle, you'll you'll get people calling you like, yeah, I'll give it to you for $200, because it's just sitting in their tree rows or whatever. So and the thing about it is, to get that $250, it better be a desirable vehicle. The scrap iron thinks that they can actually have a lot of parts that people are wanting. Because if it's a really outdated vehicle, they're going to have a heck of a time selling any of the parts out of it because there aren't that many on the roads. So, um, and I guess I might as well as mention it, because like the '99 to 2006 truck platforms, whether it be the half tons, the 3/4 tons, the Tahoes, the Suburbans, they have really come down in value, you guys, because, well, most of them are 360,000 miles on them now. And I mean, they just keep going. But from what I've been seeing, whenever I see them for sale, $500 to $600. And it's because the transmission's out on it or whatever. So they just don't sell for much. And like I said, they're old, and you can make them last, but and people don't want to deal with the poor gas mileage that they used to get. The Tahoe's got 17. The half tons, we still have ours. That one of ours that we bought just about brand new. I think we just hit 96,000 original miles on it. That 4-wheel drive with the 5.3 liter. Going down the highway, just empty, we get 13. And then our other one, I think we just hit 95,000. That's the 3/4 ton with a 6 liter 4-wheel drive, and we bought that brand new. Like I said, 95,000 miles on it. We get 11 miles per gallon. So they're just not very efficient anymore. And I'm sure I'll stick with that platform, the 99 to 2006 GM trucks, as long as the parts are available. But eventually, as you can't get parts for them or the salvage yards start to run low, thank God that Ford has picked up the slack there. And you have to realize that Ford, Chevy, Dodge, Toyota, they're all junk right now. Their engines are blowing up or transmissions are going out, just because of all this emission stuff. But Ford finally got it right, you guys, in 2011 when they came out with that new body style where they had the 6.7 liter Power Stroke, which does use DEF fluid, and the 6.2 liter gas pickups. We have had so much luck with them with all the fleets that I worked with and everything. 200,000 miles on them, and we have not had to replace the engines or the transmissions on them. And you see a lot of them with 360,000, just like the GMT 800s from that 99 to 2006. They are right there with them. There's finally a replacement. And I realize 2011 to me it feels new, but that's already a 15-year-old pickup. But like I said, those the GMs of 99 to 2006, those things are 25 to 27 years old. They're pretty much antiques now, and like I said, they're not gonna be around. But it feels nice to actually have hope at the end of the tunnel that somebody did step up, and not everybody is making junk. And like I said, I definitely went by a Ford half ton, but their F250s, these new ones from 2011 and new, they are solid. And the same with like, growing up as a kid, me in the 90s and the early 2000s being in school, everybody used to always tell me buy a rice burger, buy a Honda Accord. They last forever. But all those Honda Accords that I remember when I was a kid, they all had the stick shift transmission because Honda always made a weak transmission that would go out. So whenever you bought a Honda, you just always made sure that you had to buy a stick shift. But now I looked at Honda and Toyota's website, and neither of them offer a manual transmission, and all their automatic transmissions are CVTs, which go out. And like the Toyota Corollas, I know so many people with, I thought it was the 2014 or the 2015 model. I think it was 2014, and their CVT transmission went on the Toyota Corolla, so they're not indestructible either. But I don't know if any of you guys heard the news and stuff, everything, but Toyota made the move that I believe they are getting rid of all normal gas engines, and they have had they've had so much luck with the Toyota Priuses, and they just got it right since they came out with them in 2005. So they've been around forever, and they're just proven machines. They're converting, I believe, every single Toyota vehicle to hybrids because that's what they specialize in. You just think about like even Case IHs when Case IH around 2000 or 2002 came out with the Case IH quad track tractors. Those things were amazing. They were just a game changer for the entire industry. And Ford tried to copy them, Versatile tried to copy them, and then finally John Deere did. And John Deere was way more expensive, but the reality is Case IH was the one that started them, and they were so much ahead of them. The Case IH quad track, even though it's cheaper, is superior just because they have way more experience than John Deere in that industry. So yeah, and then you think about Caterpillar as well. Because I remember Toyota, they said that they were in a real dilemma when all of this stuff under Biden, where he wanted to convert everything to everybody to go to electric vehicles. Well, Toyota made such long-lasting, durable engines that all the other companies were starting to try and make electric, and they were having so many problems with them. Like the Ford Lightning, they put that in the F-150, and people hooked a trailer up to it, and they could only drive 75 miles before the battery was so depleted they had to turn around to go back to the gas station and wait 2 hours, I believe, 2 or 2.5 hours to charge the pickup so they could move it again. It didn't make sense. So but like Caterpillar, when they were dealing with the DEF fluid and the emissions, I thought it was around 2007 or something. Caterpillar, I used to not have much respect for them because whenever I need to get parts for the semi, I'd go in there with my VIN number of the semi, and they'd be like, "Oh, what? You need a part for the engine, huh?" So they're like, "What's the serial number on the engine? We need the parts." And I was like, it's scratched off after all these years and everything. And they're like, yeah, we need that. I was like, I've just got the VIN number. Why? It should be just like car, right? And they're like, no, no. They're like, that these trucks here, they could put whatever engine they could in the factory. So you have to have that VIN number off that engine or that VIN number off that transmission as well. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? And they're like, well, we can't help you. And it always ticked me off about Caterpillar like that. But then I did a lot more research of why people love Caterpillar so much because the thing about Caterpillar is they made the deal with all of their heavy equipment, their dozers, everything, their rubber tire dozers. They said that we can rebuild the frames and everything on it, the engine, the transmission, the frame, forever. You can keep running that 30-year-old rubber tire dozer, we can turn it into a new dozer every time. You send the frame in, and we will completely go through it, repaint it, re-weld everything, and remachine everything, all the bushings, and keep it on the road. Whereas like Komatsu and all them, they have their end of life, and they expect you to throw away that dozer. So hats off to Caterpillar that they think old school about saving people money, and you can rebuild that dozer for way cheaper than buying a brand new dozer. They make it actually affordable. Even everything's expensive nowadays, but it's way cheaper than buying a brand new dozer that's whatever. I don't even know what a new dozer is, but I knew a new blade, a road grader. I thought they're $1 million right now. So, and even a scraper, I know they're at least $1 million. I'm talking like a 657 or whatever. But yeah, so um, yeah, it's in this day and age where all these manufacturers don't want you to fix stuff. And then, like I said, this is another thing against John Deere here, which I'm pretty sure everybody knows about John Deere with their right to repair that they were locking all the customers out of uh, their stuff so that they couldn't fix it or whatever, and you had to hire the dealer. Well, they lost that in court to the Department of Justice. Well, guess what? John Deere vowed that they were going to go and fight this again. And now I talked to the independent dealers and did some more research on that, or the independent mechanics, and they said that, yeah, we still can't work on your John Deeres because even though legally John Deere now, since they lost the lawsuit, they said that John Deere is charging them $6,000 for the subscription for 1 year to have access to programming your John Deere tractors. And no independent repair shop can charge their customers enough and get enough work like that to justify paying that. So all the farmers still have to go to John Deere. Yeah, I thought that would just be on the computer program where you could buy it for your tractors and then you got total access. Nope, it's a subscription, not not that you own, not that you just own the laptop or whatever. So yeah, it sucks what John Deere's doing. And I just talked to a Caterpillar field mechanic about that, and what he told me of because I remember when our one of our companies that I was working for, we were going through that and we tried getting away from John Deere because we had a huge fleet of them, and we tried like McCormick tractors, brand new, but they were just too light duty. The thing about John Deere is you aren't just paying for the green paint; they actually do make really good quality, and their paint. Do you really see faded John Deere tractors? No, you don't. Their paint is very high quality and all that. But they said with Caterpillar, so we tried a Cat Challenger tractor was used, and I thought that it was because Caterpillar um, would sell us the software programming for it. It's not because of that. Caterpillar, once you own their software program that you buy, it works throughout all of the Caterpillars, whether it be a dozer, a payloader, a Cat Challenger egg tractor. That's how great Cat is. So like I said, with me hating Caterpillar after those experiences dealing with the parts departments for so many years, I just have so much respect. And like I said, if I was going to be buying anything nowadays, I'd probably buy Caterpillar. And kind of even thinks about you, like farmers here, where they're in such a dilemma with stuff getting so expensive. I don't think it'd be a bad idea for all the farmers there to go with Cat Challenger tractors. They make front wheel assist tractors. Of course, they make their track tractors as well. but you can also buy articulating four-wheel drive wheel tractors, which we owned at that time. And um, with all of their stuff being meant to be rebuilt for the rest of your life, you would never have to buy a replacement tractor for the rest of your life. They would just rebuild the frame and everything for you. And they're like John Deere. They've been around so long that that's another thing. John Deere, I don't think that any of their parts ever become obsolete. You can get any part, no matter how old of a tractor. It might cost you a lot of money, but I think John Deere, they still keep the dies and everything where they can get you the parts for it. And the same with Caterpillar. I bet that no matter how old the Cat tractor is, I bet that they can get the parts for you. So um, if Caterpillar and John Deere are gonna be butting heads, I'm going with Caterpillar. They actually care about their customers. So if you guys like this content, like, share, and subscribe. And I'll just keep kicking out this money saving content about how to repair lawnmowers, four wheelers, the Honda Fits, the 99 2006 Chevy truck platforms, and my travels all around the world. All right, take care.